and they are merciful towards one another. This is a sifat that we mentioned. And likewise this verse continues that the sifat is also inside the Injil and the Torah. The signs of sujood have been placed upon these people are the sifat that have been mentioned. And we find that these men, nothing distracts these men. رِجَالٌ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْعٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. That these men, nothing diverts them from not business transactions or any business dealings, does not take them away from the remembrance of Allah and establishing the prayer and the zakah. يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. They fear a day, that day when the eyes will be overturned and the hearts will be overturned. That is these great men. The business, the dunya doesn't distract them. The wealth doesn't distract them. They have got a vision, they have a goal, and they want to complete that goal of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you find that these men, these great men, they never change in the slightest, ready to give up their lives. And we find in the Quran as well, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا آهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. That these are مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ. From amongst the believers there are certain men. They have remained true to the covenant, the promise that they gave to Allah. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. Amongst them are those that their time has come and they've been lifted by Allah. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. And amongst them are those people who are waiting. وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. And they never change. Because sometimes people may go for jihad, go for warfare, or be in this strong sense of iman that when they return, whether be surrounded by the walls of Mecca or Medina, they return, their iman changes. That is da'ful iman. But these men, they didn't change in the slightest. That when they return from the battlefields or wherever they return from, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They never change their intention. Their intention is always to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is once again a praise of these people inside Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 23. And we find that whenever it was a dire need and the dire struggle, as we find the Battle of Badr, which is known as the Day of Furqan, the criteria between Haqq and Batil, where even the Prophet Muhammad himself, he prayed. He said that today, if you do not give us victory today, then you will not be worshipped on the land after this day. And then victory was given to the companions. They were there surrounding and helping and aiding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And like many of us today, what would we say? فَاذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ فَقَاتِلًا إِنَّهَا هُنَا قَاعِدُونَ. You and your Lord go and fight, we are going to sit here. It's all the way of Bani Israel, of Al-Yahud. That you go and fight, and we're just going to sit here and we're just going to be enjoying the dunya. You and your Lord can go. But the companions said that we're not going to be like such people. We're not going to say those words to you. You are giving us a command to go, we're going to go with you, and we're willing to sacrifice our lives for your sake or for the sake of Al-Islam. And thus we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them. لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with those believers who gave the pledge underneath the tree. This pledge is not referring to anybody else. It's talking about those 1400 of companions who gave that pledge underneath the tree. So when some of the people speak ill of these companions, they need to be very, very careful. That now they have to reinterpret the Quran. Because now the Quran has been quite specific. He is pleased with those people who gave the pledge underneath the tree. So these people are claiming that many of the companions became disbelievers and only a handful are believers. They have to reinterpret these verses of the Quran. And anybody who begins to make ta'wil of the Quran is committing kufr. As going on the path of negating their Islam. The ghulat Shia that we find, who make tahrif of the Quran, change the Quran to suit their own understanding and their own aqa'id, their own beliefs that they have. Likewise we find, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. The first and foremost who believe amongst al-muhajirin wal-ansar. Once again praising these people. These are the foremost people who believe in Iman. وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. And those who follow them in goodness and Iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise towards the end of Surah Al-Bayyinah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ إِلَى رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These characteristics are mentioned specifically to them. We may think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us, but really we look deep down, I don't think many of us can feel confident that at the moment, the way the Muslim Ummah is going, that there is some pleasure of Allah upon this Muslim Ummah. Because really sometimes I sit down and I think, ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ ذِلَّ أَيْنَمَا ثُقِفُوا. Indignity has been smashed upon these people wherever they go. These verses are talking about Al-Yahud. But many times I begin to think that at the moment this is the same thing that's happened to the Muslim Ummah. That wherever we go there's indignity smashed upon us. There is no respect for the Muslim Ummah at all at the moment. Why is that? Because probably clearly we are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we find that the glad tidings of paradise have been even given by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the permission of Allah. Wahi has come down to him. Obviously the hadith is called Wahi, revelation. Asharatul Mubashara, the 10 that have been given glad tidings of paradise. And likewise we find Thabit ibn Qais has been given the glad tidings of paradise. Why was he given the glad tidings of paradise? If you read the tafsir of Surah Al-Hujurat, in the 49th chapter of the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti an-nabi. Oh, you believe, don't raise your voice over the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he heard this voice, he had a deep voice, a heavy voice. So whenever he would speak, it would drown everybody else's voice. Look at how they understood these verses of the Quran. When he heard this verse, he said, I am always raising my voice above the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so my actions are null and void. أَن تَحْبَطْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. Your actions become null and void and you do not even perceive it. Anybody's actions become null and void, they are people of the hellfire. So he went away and he locked himself in his room. Look at the concern of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He cared about these people. He cared about his companions. And he asked, where is Thabit ibn Qais? Go and bring him to me. So they went to find him. He said, look, I'm amongst the people of the hellfire according to this verse. And they go back and they relay that back to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Kalla, but huwa min ahli jannah, but rather he's amongst the people of paradise. So these are glad tidings given by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He shows concern for his companions. Like I said, Abu Hurairah, that many times when you read this hadith, you begin to laugh. That he's rolling around in the dust, in a state of hunger, as if he's a mad person. And he'll be lying underneath, next to the mimbar, and then roll out and roll back. And companions see him, that look at the state of this companion, look at him, in a state of junoon, in a state of madness. He goes to Abu Bakr and he says that, what do you say about ayah kada wa kada? This hadith is marwahu Imam Muslim. What do you say about such and such verse? He got the verses revealed about such and such people, and this is the verse, and that's it. He goes to Umar and he says, what do you say about such and such a verse? And he answers the same thing and he walks away. When the Prophet Muhammad sees him, he knows that Abu Hurairah is hungry. He says, come with me. The other two companions didn't notice this, but he noticed this about Abu Hurairah. He said, come with me. And he goes to his home and he finds a bowl of milk that is placed there. The ulama make istinbat from this hadith that the Prophet Muhammad asks, where did this milk come from? He made tahqiq. He checked that anything comes into your home, especially when you know it's not your property, to always to make sure. Maybe the kids may bring something into the house, something may enter into the house, and maybe something that doesn't belong to you. He asked, who gave this? And they said, so and so sent it for you as a form of sadaqah. So he said, Abu Hurairah, yalla, let's go. So Abu Hurairah is thinking, look, we're about to drink this milk, where should we go? Go to the people, Ahl Suffah. The people who wear the woolen clothing, who would sit outside the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His face drops now. That there is some 400 or some 300 and odd in number, my memory doesn't serve me correctly state how many there were, but more than 300 at least, who were sitting there. And the Prophet Muhammad calls all of them. And obviously Abu Hurairah has to offer the milk, the bowl of milk to the beginning, because he cannot drink it himself. He offers it and they all begin to drink one by one, and it comes finally to Abu Hurairah. And now the Prophet Muhammad smiles at him and he says to him, drink. He looks at the bowl and he drinks. He pauses and the Prophet Muhammad says, drink. He drinks and then he stops. He goes, Wallahi, I cannot drink anymore, my veins are full. I cannot drink anymore. This is the concern of the Prophet Muhammad for his companion. He had this deep concern. He recognized that Abu Hurairah was in a state of hunger. He was only asking about the ayat that somebody may feel mercy upon and say, look, let's go home, let's go have a meal, let's go have something to eat. Only the Prophet Muhammad could notice that about his companions. And likewise we find the other famous hadith about when they heard a noise, and all the companions came rushing out to track down where is this sound coming from. And lo and behold, the one who is riding back, who is riding his horse without the saddle. Anybody that's horse riding, you ride a horse without a saddle, it will rip your thighs apart, leave scars on your thighs. He is Rasulullah riding his horse, coming back without a saddle. And he says to his companions, be at rest, it is only a sound that was coming from such and such destination, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That shows that he's concerned, and he got up before all of them. And he's gone out and checked what's happened, and then he's come back. Shows he's the warrior, the nature that he had. And even the great companions themselves, they write that in the state of battle, that if the war became ferocious, it became hot, the war, then all of us would come under the shield of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We would stand behind him, because when he would go forth, he wouldn't step back. So great companions, great warriors, they even when they felt scared, they would step behind him.